What's up, guys? It's Techno Viking 23 coming to you today with my impressions of the Star Wars Battlefront Beta. Now, I know a lot of people have been throwing these videos out over the weekend, and I actually wanted to play the game for quite a while before I gave some of my opinions on it. I downloaded this on Friday, played it pretty extensively throughout the weekend, and have some mixed feelings on it, I think just like everybody else. Now this is a beta, of course, so obviously this is not the full game. I hope this is not, indicative of what the full game is going to be like after playing this all weekend. But at the same time, it is a little worrisome because when these companies release these so-called betas so close to the release date, it's almost like they don't have a lot of time to fix a lot of the problems. And that's something I'm kind of worried about with this game. As you guys know, the Destiny beta also came out pretty close to the time Destiny was released, and unfortunately, gave us a pretty good preview of the lack of content that was in the game. Now, this is kind of the problem with this Battlefront beta, is there just was not a whole lot of content to actually experience. It was kind of the same thing, just over and over and over again. I'll be playing some Drop Zone and Walker Assault in the background here of this video so you guys can see some gameplay. So there's some things that I'm a little bit worried about with this game after playing it, but first off, let me start with some of the good things I actually enjoyed about this game. Number one, this is probably the most visually impressive game I have seen yet on the new generation of consoles. These graphics looked really good, very impressive. The skyboxes were absolutely incredible. A lot of the times when I first started playing the game, I was more distracted looking around at the skyboxes. You've got the Calmarian cruisers and the Star Destroyers, and everybody's fighting up in orbit and up in the sky. You got TIE fighters and X-Wings and all kinds of things flying around. And it's pretty amazing. The graphics are really, really good and very well done. You'll be playing Walker Assault, and you got X-Wings and A-Wings and TIE fighters flying around, and they'll crash into the ground near you and explode, and it's just very, very, very awesome, very Star Wars-like, I will say. The sounds are also very well done. They did a great job on the blaster sounds, lightsabers when you're using one of the hero characters, and even the TIE fighters and the X-Wings and things like that. They all sound very authentic. They sound very close. Very graphically impressive game. Very good in terms of all that. The gameplay controls are also pretty solid. The movement's pretty smooth. You do get a lot of cool little abilities to boost your movement around the map, like the jump pack and things like that. So overall, I felt the game, mechanic-wise, is pretty solid. It's a pretty good shooter. It's more of an arcadey shooter, though. It feels a lot more like Call of Duty than it does a Battlefront game or even a Battlefield game, which I think a lot of people thought this was just going to be a Battlefield skin, so to speak, since it's coming from DICE. But this feels a lot more like a Call of Duty game, which is what I honestly feel is a little bit of a problem with it. This game does not have a very high skill gap, in my opinion. It's very easy to pick up and just run with, which I think they're trying to appeal to a broader mass of more casual players, obviously because they want to sell more games. And obviously this is a Star Wars game, so you're going to have a huge fan following just from it being a Star Wars title in general. So that's one thing that's a little bit worrisome. I don't think if you're a hardcore shooter player, if you're a big fan of like Battlefield, I don't think this is going to be a game you're going to enjoy very much because it is a little bit too much like Call of Duty. It's very chaotic. The mini-map is not very good, and you will just die quite a bit from all over the place, not even knowing who's shooting at you. It's very hard to get your bearings sometimes. It's kind of like Call of Duty, where it's whoever's the lucky person who happens to run up on a pack of people and you're behind them and surprise them. There's really not a whole lot of skill set up in some of the areas. Of course, this is just a beta, and I'm hoping that is going to change in the full release. A few things I did notice in the beta. The balance seems to be a pretty big problem with this game. The weapons, the time to kill with the weapons is all over the map. The little stat readouts they give you for each of the laser blasters and things, you take those with a grain of salt because certain weapons that look like they'll be pretty good are actually pretty crappy, and certain weapons that look like they might not be so great are actually pretty overpowered. And one weapon in particular I noticed this with was the DH17 blaster pistol. It's supposed to just be like a close range blaster pistol, but it's like you get it and it's a rapid fire. It's so accurate. It's like a long range sniper almost. You just mow people down with this gun. I was playing pretty average the first few games that I was playing through here. I wasn't really focusing too much on KD or being good at the game. I really was just trying to play some objectives and just run around and enjoy the beta and have some fun with it. But when I got this DH17 unlocked, oh my god! Every game afterwards, I was going like 20 and 0. People cannot stop you when you get that gun. It reminded me a lot of the MP7 from Modern Warfare 3, which is supposed to be a short-range machine pistol, but it wound up being a cross-map rapid-fire killer. And that's how the DH17 felt to me. It's like there's just so much weapon balance that needs to be put into this game. That was one problem I definitely did notice. The time to kill between the various weapons is it's just too far off, and that was one of the main problems I noticed in the game early on. This becomes pretty clear also in the Walker Assault game mode. It's very unbalanced in terms of what team you get on. Especially if you get on the Imperials, you're going to win probably 9 times out of 10, unless you just get a really, really good team playing with the Rebels. And that was another problem I noticed with this beta, and I think part of the issue that's going to happen with this game being more of a casually toned game to appeal to more players, is everybody seemed to just want to run around and play Call of Duty Deathmatch. Even on Drop Zone, even on the objective modes on Walker Assault, no one was going to do the uplinks if you were on the Rebel team. Everybody was just trying to run around and play TDM and get a lot of kills instead of focusing on the objectives. And that's really a disappointment because I'm one of those people, I really do enjoy objective gameplay in PvP shooters. One of the reasons I really loved Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. And it was just very disappointing to see that the kind of player they're going for here, it seems like it's going to be more of let's just run around and shoot each other and not worry about the objective. And that's one of the reasons, like on Walker Assault, the Empire wins so often is because if you're the Empire, you're in the Walkers, you get the ATSTs, which are freaking ridiculously OP, and you just crush the Rebels. It's kind of like the movie, it's the same thing that happens in the movie. The Rebels get destroyed. But one thing, and that's another thing, vehicle balance is kind of also up for debate here. Played a few games of Walker Assault where I actually found the ATST power-up really quickly. I jumped in that thing at the beginning of the game and went on like a 50 kill streak before anybody even really knew, how to get rid of me. I was just mowing everybody down. It's absolutely ridiculous. And unlike in some of DICE's earlier games, you can get in the tanks in Battlefield and go on some pretty awesome kill streaks if you have maxed out your vehicle skills and you have, what you're doing, how to use the vehicles. But there's also counters in those Battlefield games, whether you're using an engineer, anti-tank mines, or rockets, or all kinds. There's different counters. In this game, it doesn't appear that there's the counters for the vehicles like you have in other games that are very effective. And that was one thing I did notice. Hopefully that's, when we get the full game, that's going to be something that's addressed and there will be more skills and more weapons and things that make it a little bit easier to deal with some of those vehicles. The other thing I noticed too, staying on the vehicles for a moment, is when you got in the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, things like that, it just felt really clunky. It didn't feel very smooth. Like some of the flight in the Battlefield games is pretty good. It's pretty smooth when you're using the vehicles. This game, it felt kind of clunky. I got to be honest. I've played a lot of Star Wars games over the years, and honestly, the controls in Rogue Squadron, which came out on the N64, felt a lot better than this game in terms of flying the ships. So I think that's something they really need to figure out. They're trying to make it simple, I guess, again, to appeal to that broader range of players. But the vehicle combat felt really slow and clunky. Really was not a huge fan of it. And it seems like they've also got some of the things mixed up with the vehicles, like the TIE Interceptor flies more like the X-Wing. It's clunky and slower, whereas the normal TIE Fighter is a little bit faster. And if you go by Star Wars lore, the TIE Interceptor is supposed to be the quicker fighter, the answer to the A-Wing. And in this case, it's like reversed. It's like the A-Wing and the TIE Fighter are like the equals, and the X-Wing and the TIE Interceptor are the equals, and that's not how it's supposed to work, but whatever. It's just a beta. Like I said, I hope they will fix some of these problems. I also noticed that early unlocks and equipment you get early on are going to put you at a disadvantage versus people who have been playing the game for quite a while who have better unlocks, and that's pretty typical of some of the DICE games. As you level up and the more time you invest in a game, you are going to get rewarded with a little bit better gear. Really don't have much of a problem with that, but that was one thing I noticed. I went in and played a lot of Drop Zone before I went to Walker Assault just to unlock a lot of the other weapons and things. And they actually tell you that in the beginning. They say, we recommend you play Drop Zone for a while until you go into Walker Assault because you want to have some power-ups and things unlocked. Really wasn't much customization with the beta. That was another problem, but again, I'm hoping that's something we're going to see with the full game. I'm trying to just be optimistic here and think that this game is going to have a lot more features when it initially releases, but DICE does have a lot of work to do between now and November 17th when this game comes out to make this worthy of a $60 price tag. That was my main overall thing I took away from the beta, is that this just felt like really an average game. It didn't feel like anything worth $60. If this didn't have the Star Wars title on it, I don't think half as many people would be interested in it. it's just not a very, there's not many features. It's very simple. You know, it's even more simple than Call of Duty, quite honestly. It's very easy to pick up and just play right off the get-go. There in this beta, there was just not a lot of content to do in this beta, which again, that worries me since we're so close to the release date. That's a problem some of these companies have, is when they do these betas so close to the release date, it's almost like they're giving you a demo. It's not really a full beta. That's one of the things I give 343 some credit for. The Halo 5 Guardians beta came out what seems like a long time ago. So they had a really good beta that they did, and it's going to give them a lot of time to work on problems and feedback. Whereas with this, we're about a month out from the game. DICE is not going to have a lot of time to really fix some of the issues that are in this game, and that's something that's worrisome, especially given how their launch of Battlefield 4 went. That was an absolute disaster, and I don't really think DICE can afford to do that with this game. But I'm just really hoping, like I said, for the price tag they want for this game, that there's going to be a lot more content in it. It just does not feel like this is a game worth $60. I did have fun playing the beta, I will admit that. But this is a game, if this was like a $30 game, I would definitely be interested in picking it up. But quite honestly, for the price they want for this game, it's not even on my radar. I'm really not even interested at all in buying this game. I wouldn't pre-order it either because obviously we don't know what the full game is going to look like when it comes out. And the last thing I'll close on is this game, like I said earlier in this video, is just the graphics are amazing and the sounds are amazing. There's so much potential here to have a freaking epic campaign. I just don't understand why they're skipping that and why they're deciding not to do that in this game, because that would give them a lot to do, you know, a lot more content to play, especially with these graphics. A campaign using these graphics would just be the most epic thing ever, especially since it is Star Wars. But at the same time, you know, it is DICE, and if you are a Battlefield player, you will know that the DICE campaigns and the Battlefield games have been absolute garbage for the most part. They're usually pretty terrible. So maybe it's a good thing they're not including a campaign with this, because DICE has not really had much luck writing those campaigns. But at the same time, as I said, as a fan of single-player games and having a variety of gameplay content, I'm really not too interested in this game for $60. Now, I know there's some co-op stuff and some other things, but again, really, I just don't think it's going to be all that great. I think the multiplayer is going to be the big focus, just like it was with Titanfall, and I just don't see this game having a whole lot of staying power unless DICE is going to make some major improvements and unless they're releasing a lot of content when the full release comes out. So, but like I said, it is a beta. We're going to wait and see what the full game looks like. The beta, like I said, it was pretty fun, but at the same time, just a lot of issues, a lot of balance problems with it so far, and they've got a lot of work cut out for themselves before the main game releases on November 17th, and that's just very worrisome that we got this beta so close to the game's release date. They don't have a lot of time to fix things. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me. If you did play the beta, let me know down below what you thought about it. You know, let me know your comments and your opinions. I know a lot of Battlefront veterans are really upset because this is not a Battlefront game, so to speak, in terms of the way it plays, in terms of the lack of customization and classes and things. So that is definitely another point to consider. But like I said, I think this game is supposed to appeal to a broad range of casual players and Star Wars fans. They're trying to just make a lot of sales based on the Star Wars name and very simplistic gameplay. So again, guys, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you again next time.